Greetings, everyone. This is a very exciting and auspicious time. I'm very thrilled to bring you this new information, some old information, all wrapped into this new presentation of the seventh seal, Hidden Wisdom Unveiled, Divine Portal, Consciousness Ascending, Silvergate 522. Expanding on the cusp story of Gemini, the Orion constellation and its correlation to the Great Pyramids and this location, a deeper understanding of the true Moses story, the divine twins, the birthday of Buddha and how it plays into all of this, Shakespeare and what our illustrious Bacon/Germain knew and encoded, opening the seventh seal, and deeper gnosis regarding Thomas the Twin, and how this all highlights the awakening of your divine self, the integration of your higher self into your present now moment. For those of you that may not be following me, I have been researching, remembering, decoding, integrating higher aspects of my multidimensional self for 40 years, and the body of work, the seventh seal, Hidden Wisdom Unveiled, has been a culmination of 30 plus years, which has been a spiritual odyssey guided by the Ascended Masters, who led me to uncover all this and deeper aspects of my being as the way to ascend and the path of the Eternals. And thus I was encouraged by the Ascended Masters to uncover the deeper meaning of the twins and my own personal connection to it, as I'm born on 522. And the first time I tried what I've called the Saint Germain cipher, it added up to my birthday. The cipher is A plus 6 each time, as he finished modern English in 1633. I've shown how Bacon has encoded the Bible. Throughout my entire material, I've shown how he encoded messages inside the English language. If you want to find out more about my metacodes and the metanumerology, join my mystery school at stargatecodes.com. Now let's look at the overwhelming evidence that the mystery schools of old understood all this symbolism and underlying meaning as the awareness that led to the ascension of consciousness. Essentially the apotheosis. Bacon understood so much and left so many clues. Here, as we take a closer look at the headpiece that he created, that was the first page of the Bible in the 1611 edition that he edited for a year. You can see the representation of Moses and Aaron on either side. These are essentially twins, as we'll come to learn more. The 15 characters at the top for 15:6. The symbolism of Tarot. 4 fixed signs of the zodiac, which are the 4 creatures around the throne: Taurus, Bull, Leo, Lion, Aquarius, Human, and an eagle for Scorpio, which is the hidden high side of the sign, which is much like the hidden aspect and message of Gemini. The Masonic shadowy figure with what looks like a 7, or the Masonic angle in the center, with their fathers being immortal. in one story, and the other, more interesting, essentially a type of Immaculate Conception story, where one of the twins is sired by Zeus and the other an immortal, resulting in one twin being immortal and one twin eventually dies. The immortal son asks his father to bring him back. Instead, he immortalizes them both in the sky as the constellation of Gemini. It is interesting to note that Romulus and Remus were the individuals who started Rome, but before that they were abandoned on the side of a river. It actually reveals a very interesting aspect of what is forthcoming as a big reveal. The Bible tells us that Jesus had a twin brother. It's highlighted in a few places, especially in the Gnostic scriptures. Thomas the twin, the Greek version is Didymus, which means twin. Some metaphysical schools of thought believe that the 12 disciples are the 12 constellations and Thomas is Gemini. It becomes even more compelling when we understand that the scenes were waiting for two savior types, the teacher of righteousness and the king of righteousness, and they were twin brothers. When we are told that Herod wanted to kill all the firstborn, and Jesus and another baby were both brought to Egypt, conceivably because they were anticipated and they were the king and high priest that had been foretold as the world teachers. Are these two souls more connected than we realize? If Jesus was the first begotten, what is the deeper truth of the soul of Saint Germain? What did Bacon know? How many facets are there to this twin story? Continuing to shine light on the importance of this time, this 522 Gemini Stargate Code Ascension portal is confirmed in a variety of ways. The Sphinx is watching the horizon, looking for the equinoxes and solstices as it tracks Sirius and the rising and falling of the Orion constellation. The angles of the causeways point to the horizon at two specific times, 5:22 and 11:22. These are very important times when the apparent path of the sun crosses these locations in the sky, intersecting the Milky Way along the ecliptic, where these points are opposite each other, and known as the galactic center and anti-galactic center. The galactic center is the point where the Milky Way appears brightest and most concentrated and is located in the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. The anti-center, on the other hand, is located in the direction of constellation Gemini and is opposite to the galactic center in the sky. The Milky Way appears to cross the zodiac at these 2 points. The Egyptians knew about this, and we can see these special demarcation symbols in the temple Dendera on the ceiling. We find the ancient Egyptian zodiac, which is identical to ours. The Sumerians had the same identical zodiac as well. And it is most interesting to note that there are 2 types of gods or deities portrayed near these gates and symbolisms that represent activating gates or acknowledging and honoring these gates. These 2 types of deities wore either a horned headdress or a headdress with Scorpio on it, depicting these gates, the Silver Gate and the Golden Gate, the cusps between Taurus and Gemini and Sagittarius and Scorpio. Isis has the horns over her head with the disc in the center, as does the bull with the disc representing the Silver Gate. It's interesting to note that when you overlay a calendar to the topography of the Great Pyramids, align the phi curves and angles with the pyramids, 522 lands on the crook off the causeway of the Great Pyramid. This is where the special temple of vibration existed, which is now under the city in modern times. This is such an incredible time, especially with the eclipses that are happening on 5/5 and just a handful of days previously, with angles to Pluto and Uranus for death and rebirth, transition from the old to the new, sudden change on a massive scale, truly highlighting a most significant time in history. It is also the Wesak full moon right now as I make this, which signifies the birth of Buddha, the rising of consciousness and enlightenment. The other time that Buddha's birthday is celebrated is actually 5/22. There are so many correlations tied to this area of the sky and this time, elucidating such statements like, in the end times, all things shall be revealed. It's pretty profound to realize that Jesus' twin brother, Thomas, is also Buddha. Ancient manuscripts have revealed this tie, which elucidates so many things. I have been highlighting the gospel in the sky and the zodiac, along with a further appreciation of astral theology, with one of the most significant being a deeper understanding of the Moses character and his correlation and location in the stars. In order to unravel this, we need to understand that in the Vulgate, the principal Latin version of the Bible, put together in the late 4th century and revised in 1592, reveals that when Moses came down from the mount, he had horns, and the people are essentially taken back by this. In the English version of the Bible, this was changed to rays of light coming off his head. It is now becoming clear that this is a suppressed clue and keep for themselves in an attempt to suppress. Well, they figured out how to tap the power, setting up obelisks and watching the alignments and times to do ceremony and open for a Holy Spirit merge. It becomes empowering to realize that much of this ancient history has been forgotten or suppressed, such as the story of Oceanus, who was the eldest Titan, the son of Uranus and Gaia, essentially heaven and earth, who is depicted with horns on his head. While these heavenly stories have been recounted for millions of years, with many characters returning over and over again with the same story as Jesus, all designed to remind us of the divinity within. It is profound to realize that the ancient stories convey that Oceanus is the river that flowed around the earth. Is this another Nile or Milky Way? In some ancient scripts, Oceanus is identified as the begetter of the gods and as the begetter of all things. Although the comments were isolated, they were influential in later thinking. Clearly, as so many influential stories survive, with correlations that are obvious, such as Cain and Abel and Osiris and Set. Continuing on with Moses smiting the Egyptian. On the left, you see a painting depicting a club, which is the primary image of Orion, with further confirmation that the baby in the basket, drawn from the Nile, raised to become a great spiritual leader by Pharaoh, is one version of the story. I remember the details of mine, which I get into deeper in the book and will expound on further later. Suffice it to say, the Gospel in the Stars depicts many biblical stories, and others have created volumes illustrating this. Ophiuchus, as the other twin, is interchangeable for many characters, including Moses, Melchizedek, Jesus, and Asclepius, student becoming the master, with the snake and the rod representing the control of the wisdom and the forces. Many people are coming online as this is happening naturally due to the photon beam and cosmic rays that are increasing as we move closer to the galactic center, along with the magnification that occurs at these two gates, Silver Gate, Golden Gate. So the acceleration of awakening and enlightenment is amplified as the crown chakra opens, the seventh seal awakens fully this year, leading all the way up to the 1122 Golden Gate. The Gnostic scriptures and Jesus taught about this awakening and integration with some specific examples that we're going to take a look at as we continue to build this divine fire temple. This is talked about as being perfected, and we can find several versions of it where it further says, when you make thoughts and feelings one and the same, you shall move mountains. And additionally, unless you make the left hand like the right hand, and the things above like the things below, and the things in front like the things behind, you will not realize the kingdom. An even more ancient text that sounds very similar, stating, find balance within and fully integrate yourselves into all that you divinely are. Acquire your eternal heritage through the blending of the left and the right, the inner and the outer, the above and the below, and become the image of the living eternals. The evidence of the twins in the sky can be seen in the constellation of Sagittarius as well, with Chiron, the teacher of Asclepius, and Immortal teaching Immortal, codified in the image of a head with two faces. This Set Nupti character, who is the Great One of twofold strength. And it is interesting to find out that the pyramid texts also say that these set beings are superior and inferior, immortal and mortal. It becomes very interesting indeed, perhaps even quintessential, to see what Plato says. Perhaps there is a pattern set up in the heavens for one who desires to see it, and having seen it, to find one in himself. Various interpretations in the Bible have us believe that morning star is a negative thing. And yet when we understand more about Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini, it's visible less than 2 hours on certain times of the year, hidden 95% of the time. This is truly the hidden planet, which represents hidden wisdom. The Egyptian name for Mercury has the meaning of unknown, implying hidden wisdom. Set is also associated with Sobek, the crocodile dragon entity, who is called the Excellent One. This is the god who created the Nile. Sounds like Oceanus. Mercury adds up to 22, the master builder. There was a set of books that were removed from the Bible, the Apocrypha. I often wondered why they removed this some 15 years ago. Some would argue because it's of doubtful authenticity and dubious origins. The Greek meaning of the word is hidden or concealed, and perhaps it was too revealing as we look at the clear meaning of this text. From the book called The Wisdom of Solomon, the following reveals the nature of wisdom. He himself gave me true understanding of the things as they are, a knowledge of the structure of this world and the operation of the elements, the beginning and end of epochs and their middle course, the alternating solstices and changing seasons, the cycles of the years and constellations, the nature of the living creatures. There are many references to the significance of Egypt as the throne of God and the testament or covenant between God and his people. Jeremiah 32 says, "The great, the mighty God has set signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, even unto this day." And in Isaiah 19:19, "In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of Egypt, and a pillar," essentially a monument, "at the border thereof to the Lord, and it shall be for a sign and a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt." And with all this evidence, it becomes extremely compelling that Egypt is a mystery that is being revealed in the end times. The book of Enoch reveals much, and it would appear from a close examination that Enoch had a close encounter with the Sheshem Hor, the pyramid builders. It states that Enoch was brought up into heaven, where he said he saw 3 big mountains formed of glorious stones, also made of stones of crystal. That's what limestone is. And between them were valleys, deep but not wide, and the one in the middle was bigger than the other two. The middle one reached to the heaven, like the throne of God, a throne composed of alabaster, the top of which was a sapphire. Enoch was told to teach the people the mysteries that were revealed to him. In my 20s, I knew that there was this type of hidden wisdom, and I was looking everywhere for it because I felt I had a whole story and needed some evidence in old writings to support what I was being shown by my higher self. I was very pleased when I found this in the book of Enoch, where it states, "In this region is paradise," also referred to as the Garden of Righteousness. And as it spoke about these 2 regions, the other was defined as where the Ancient of Days descends frequently. One can imagine my glee as I found references to the things that I knew to be true over decades of self-reflection, recall, confirmation of discoveries, and additional texts that supported these things. It all added up and made great sense. Reference to the 7 stars of Orion is shown in a few ways. The book of Enoch says, "7 high mountains I beheld, higher than all the mountains on the earth, from which fire proceeds, while days, seasons, and years depart and pass away." These are the way that they describe the fire of a sun, the stars. And as I was led by my higher self to keep looking, I continued to find more. Mani, the leader of the Menicians, a Gnostic sect that was a movement that lasted until 600 AD and perhaps longer, was very compelling due to the confirmation of the Milky Way. Mani was also shown the path or way of the Eternals, which the spiritual souls travel when they ascend. This passage is called the Column of Glory. It can be seen in its visible form as the Milky Way, and its invisible form is the sun gates, silver gate and golden gate. As a deity, this column of glory is called the perfect man. So it should come as no surprise that the Freemasons, which was started by Sir Francis Bacon, reveals wisdom that was hidden for those that reached the higher levels in that order, confirming everything. The Freemasons speak of the wisdom of the ancient philosophers who regarded the soul of man to have its origins in heaven. The soul was believed to incarnate in the flesh after having descended from heaven, passing through the gate of man. Having lived another life on earth, the soul eventually left the body after death and returned to heaven again, this time passing through the gate of God. The gate of man corresponding with the crossing of the Milky Way and ecliptic at 5 degrees Gemini, while the gate of God corresponds with the crossing of the Milky Way and ecliptic in 5 degrees Sagittarius. The Greek writer Macrobius called these gates on the ecliptic, through which the souls ascend and descend to heaven, the gates of the sun. This is because not only mortal man, but also the sun dies and is reborn in the precession cycle at the very same gates. When the actual sun resides on the gates of the sun at an equinox or a solstice, it represents a galactic alignment and ultimately the great celestial conjunction. Further from the book of Enoch, Enoch further explains how he beheld the Ancient of Days, whose head was like white wool, and with him another, whose countenance resembled that of a man. His countenance was full of grace, like that of one of the holy angels. Then I inquired of one of the angels, who showed me every secret thing concerning the Son of Man, who he was, whence he was, and why he accompanied the Ancient of Days. He answered and said to me, "This is the Son of Man, to whom righteousness belongs, with whom righteousness has dwelt, and who will reveal all the treasures of that which is concealed. For the Lord of spirits has chosen him, and his portion has surpassed all before the Lord of spirits in everlasting uprightness." It is very significant and profound to understand that the hermetic teachings has this to say. Do you know, Asclepius, Greek for Imhotep, that Egypt is an image of heaven? Or to speak more exactly, in Egypt all the operations of the powers which rule and work in heaven have been transmitted to the earth below. Is it all starting to add up? No wonder Francis Bacon painstakingly encoded the English language to conceal this wisdom that there are so many rabbit holes of this information which I've been decoding and putting in my various books and videos, so much so that I'm working on my fourth book, The Middle Path, Son of Man, becoming more and more obvious as we connect the dots. The Gnostic Jesus could not be more plain, saying, "I will also give you the mystery of the baptism for those of the middle, and the manner of invocation for reaching those regions, along with their ciphers and seals. I am very confident I have worked it all out." The original creator beings who set all this up, laying it all out, did describe it pretty concisely. Further elucidating, we just need to bring it all together embody fully our I am presence, invite and love our inner twin. For it says he created a great eon whose name was Ogdod, for his own majesty. For since the imperishabilities and the authority each created a great kingdom in the eighth, and also thrones, temples, and for the majesties. Finally, whoever knows the Son of Man in knowledge and love, let him bring me a sign of the Son of Man, that he might depart to the dwelling places with those in the eight. Wow, the gateway to paradise. All designed to remind us of the divinity within. It is very enlightening to understand some of the sayings from the Gnostic scriptures where Jesus pulls Thomas aside and says, "Since it has been said that you are my twin and true companion, examine yourself and learn who you are, in what way you exist, and how you will come to be. Since you will be called my brother, it is not fitting that you be ignorant of yourself. I know that you have understood, because you have already understood that I am the knowledge of the truth. So while you accompany me, although you are uncomprehending, you have in fact already come to know, and you will be called the one who knows himself. For he who has not known himself has known nothing, but he who has known himself has at the same time already achieved knowledge about the depth of the all. So then you, my brother Thomas, have beheld what is obscure to men, that is, what they ignorantly stumble against." In other Gnostic texts, Jesus also says, "My twin is within, and I am doubly great." As we begin to look back at the stars, it's important to understand what is being communicated in saying number 22. When Jesus is asked, how do we enter the kingdom of light? Jesus saw some infants who were being suckled. He said to his disciples, "These infants being suckled are like those who enter the kingdom." They said to him, "If we then become children, shall we enter the kingdom?" Jesus said to them, "When you make the two into one, and when you make the inside like the outside, and the outside as the inside, and the upper as the lower, and when you make the male and the female into a single one, so that the male is not male and the female is not female, and when you make eyes in place of an eye, and a hand in place of a hand, and a foot in place of a foot, an image in place of an image, then you shall enter the kingdom." This is the end of part 1. Keep remembering who you are. Keep seeking and you shall find. Keep knocking and the door shall be opened. Choose yourself. Change your mind and change your reality.